What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. Now, I'm Alex. In this video, I want to discuss what will happen if Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order fails. Now, we are just one day away. The game actually comes out tomorrow for the most people. I know if you pre-order the game, I believe you get to play it. You actually got to play it last night. Now, the reviews, when I'm recording this Wednesday or yesterday, your time. So, I have not seen the reviews. I don't know what people are saying about this game. So, this is kind of just going off of not necessarily if the game, again, is like absolutely amazing or absolutely terrible. I think for the purpose of this video, we can maybe just assume that the game is going to be solid. It's going to be okay at the maybe at the worst, right? It's going to be a really solid game. There'll probably be some really, really good parts in it. Maybe there's a couple things that let the game down. But the biggest question I want to ask is what happens if this game doesn't do good? Obviously, EA has put a lot into this game, and it seems like more and more as it got closer to this game releasing that they are expecting, a lot. And also, we as fans, we as people that really want Star Wars to do well, we're putting a lot into this game. It's something I've talked about for a very, very long time on this channel, that this seems to be a game that we need to support, that we need to, even if it's not the greatest game in the world, that we need to play, we need to buy. And yeah, it sounds very different from a lot of the stuff we actually say on this channel, just in general, like our speech, but it really is true, because this is a game that you hope that EA looks at it and says, okay, this is what people want. This is the kind of game people want to actually play. It's this story-driven game, and it's a game that's kind of a blend of lots of other things. And again, we've talked about on the channel, the biggest worry with EA's involvement really would probably come in a sequel. This game seems pretty safe from microtransactions, from paying, just any kind of pay model in general. It's really if this game does outrageously well, and then they say, okay, well, let's make a second game, and then EA steps in and says, well, we know the game's going to do well now, right? We know the game is going to sell well. We know people are going to buy it. We know people like it. Let's see what we can do, with this game. And that's the worry going forward. But the problem, and I guess kind of the exact same thing, the greed or the problem with EA in general is if this game doesn't do well. Now, I really don't see how it's not going to do well, but let's just play along and pretend this game, again, we don't know review scores, but let's say this game gets in the 70s, even if it gets like in the low 80s. Seems like that's what a lot of these games are getting now. Pokemon Sword and Shield is sitting in the low 80s. Death Stranding is sitting, I guess you could say mid. It's been at 84. It's been at 83. Gears 5 was in the kind of mid to low 80s. So you have all these games. So it's not out of the realm of possibility to say if Star Wars is like slightly equal to it, or even like say equal in general, then it would kind of fall in that low 80s. I don't think this is a game that's going to get high 8s, low 9s. Maybe, I'm sure, from some outlets for sure, but that's not going to be like its Metacritic rating, I think. I think it's going to probably sit in the high 70s, low 80s. It could surprise for sure and be lower or higher, but that's where I'm going to just predict, I guess, a day early. Again, the reviews are probably out, but that's just where I'm going to predict they're going to be. So we have that. I don't think that's going to be too much of a deterrent either way of people getting the game. I think if you're into the Star Wars universe, or if you're a Star Wars fan and you've been looking forward to this game, or you've just played Star Wars games in general in your life, you're going to get this game, right? It's the reviews being a 79 versus an 81. It's not really going to affect whether or not I know it's not going to affect me. I'm getting it day one. It's going to be shipped to my house. It's going to come whether or not it's an 80 or a 70 on Metacritic, which, so like, you know what I mean? So that really doesn't matter. The problem will be if this game doesn't sell up to EA's expectations. And I believe what they want is like 6 to 8 million units. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's where they kind of expect it by like February or March of next year. So that's including, when it first comes out, that's including the Black Friday sales and all the stuff that's going to happen there. That's including, the Christmas and New Year's season, and going into next year as well. So January, February, March. So I think that is totally, totally reachable. It's sales figures that Battlefield can get on a super bad game, right? And it's like, and for Star Wars games really do sell pretty darn well, no matter what. The Battlefront games, EA's Battlefront games, for as many problems as both of them definitely did have, I thought the second one was a lot better. But for as many problems as they did have, they sold extremely, extremely well. So I don't really think there's any problems with the game not selling. So, you could say, well, Alex, this is just a pointless topic. It's going to do well no matter what. It still may not satisfy EA. That's the biggest thing. And the question would be like, what would happen after it? Well, it would basically be kind of the reverse of what I hope happens, right? I hope, again, EA looks at it and says, okay, this is the kind of game that people want. They want these story-driven Star Wars games. We need to start giving this out to more developers of ours. We need to start allowing them to make games that aren't just Destiny games, that aren't just the multiplayer games. We need to start expanding. And to their somewhat credit, they did try to do that with Amy Hennig's game, with that Vancouver game, 2 different games. That then they were going to be more like, they could have been more Destiny feel like, but especially the Amy Hennig game was more of an open world, like Uncharted like game set in the Star Wars universe, right? So they were trying to do different things. I think they do, weirdly enough, have a plan where they want to test out different versions, what different kinds of video games that are out there, and do they work with Star Wars? And I think that that's what this one is. Obviously, Respawn kind of has that pedigree to them, and so they're obviously just letting them do their thing. So the reverse of them seeing it and saying, oh, this is what people want, it could be, again, if you flip that on that side and it doesn't do very well, then EA looks at it and says, well, here's the issue. We spent a lot of money on this. We still have the license. For all of our failures, we still have the license. We've tried to make other games, and we've had to close studios. We've had to cancel them. We gave this one a chance. We gave it a chance to be a single-player game. It's got the Uncharted feel. It's got the God of War feel. It's got the Legend of Zelda feel. It's got all the feels of like the best games out there, and it's Star Wars, and this was our best shot at it. And something happened, and people didn't like it. Now, I think if they really wanted the single-player medium of Star Wars games to be driven forward, then you look at it, and it's probably the thought would be, well, let's see what we can do to fix it, right? We're still going to make these kind of games, but let's see what we can do to make them even better. The worry I have, and the worry I'm sure some other people will have, is that they would look at it and say, well, we're just going to abandon that model just in general. Another thing, again, so that's like the biggest thing, is if they look at it and they say, this wasn't enough of a success for us, it's clear that only the multiplayer games can do it. It's clear that maybe if we try to rip off Destiny, then we'll have some success there. So those are going to be the games we go forward with. That would be the worst thing that could possibly happen, but it definitely is a possibility. I don't think it's likely. The other one is, again, them getting their hands in it with microtransactions and loot boxes, which you could argue would happen either way, right? So we've talked about if the game does well, then they look at it and they're like, wow, there's a market here. We can sell this game a second time. At the same time, you really can use like reverse psychology. You can use like clever wording to make your case for the opposite as well. Even if the game doesn't sell well, if we got a second game, there's their chance to say out loud like, hey, we still believe in this model of Star Wars games. We still believe that we can tell good story-driven games and single-player games and have them be different. They can say all that. Respawn can do their job and actually make a really good game, right? We get the second game, and then EA's like, but we need it to be valuable and viable for us to do this in general. So we need to like add some stuff. So we're gonna have to add a multiplayer mode because the single player mode just wasn't cutting it. Obviously, people were okay with it, but people obviously they wanted more because not enough people bought it. So we need to add multiplayer. We need to add this element. We need to add that element. We're going to introduce some pay stuff, maybe microtransactions, maybe loot boxes. We're gonna figure that out. But we need to kind of add to it again because maybe the game just wasn't filled enough the first game. Maybe there was a problem with it. And secondly, here's our chance to like do something extra with the Star Wars universe. So there's a lot of ways of looking at it. I guess the best news though, and this was a video that I just wanted to kind of explore those options. The good news is truthfully from my heart, just being honest, one-on-one with every single person watching this video, and which we always try to do with all these videos. I truly don't believe almost anything that I'm saying is going to happen. I really don't. I think that this game is going to be a major success. Now, at the same time, this could come out, the reviews could be, and it's like, man, there's just some huge fundamental problems with this game. That would absolutely suck. But in my heart of hearts, I really do believe that this game is going to be successful. I think that even if it's an average average game, I think people are going to kind of grab onto it and say, like, yes, this is the game. Like, this may not be a perfect game, but this is the kind of game we want. This is the game that we're going to support, and we want more games like this. I think that is generally going to be the approach. I can tell you I'm extremely, extremely excited. I cannot wait to start playing this game. We're going to have videos on this game throughout the weekend, throughout next week, so we got loads of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order content. Let me know in the comments below of this video, guys. I have a couple video ideas to make of the game, but let me know what you want to see from videos of this game coming out from this channel. What what kind of videos do you want us to make for you guys? Let me know. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel podcast now. Hit that bell icon so you guys know when these videos go up, and the videos will start Saturday. So Saturday and Sunday, there'll both be a video on each day, and I hope to see you guys there.